Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Roseville Wrecking Ball. The Roseville Wrecking Ball.
Joshua Shrum. He is a very talented steward, very knowledgeable.
The Roseville Wrecking Ball. This is one of those podcasts where I listen to every episode. I love what he's putting out there.
The Roseville Wrecking Ball. Josh Shrum.
Parsons of knowledge. Does a fantastic job with that podcast.
The Roseville Wrecking Ball. He is an Article 8 scholar, and thank God. We need Article 8 scholars right now.
Tune into the Parsons of Knowledge podcast while you're on the route. That's the mailman's playbook, brother.
Okay, here we are with our guest, Danna Chambless, and even though I just said her name, I'd like you to introduce yourself for the record.
Hi, I'm Danna Chambless. I'm the branch president of Nashville, Tennessee. I'm running on the CLC slate as a candidate for the MBA position for Region 8.
All right. So am I saying your last name right when I say Danna Chambless?
It's Chambless.
Chambless. Okay, I've been getting that wrong the whole time. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's fine.
Well, all right. So here we are. Some listeners submitted questions, and there's not a whole lot, but it's enough. And we're just going to go through each one, not in any particular order. So First, we're going to start off with, can you point to a specific achievement in contract enforcement, grievances, or member advocacy that demonstrate you would outperform Brother Steve Lassen as Region 8 National Business Agent rather than just offer a different slate alignment?
Well, to point to a specific achievement, I would say that contract enforcement, grievances, member advocacy, that's things that are done on a daily basis as a branch president. That's part of your job. We do that every day. So to me, it's a daily achievement. You know, I think as a branch president, we have to represent our members, and in contract enforcement, you know, I deal with that as filing grievances, and I'd say probably since 2022, I've been president of Branch 4. We have filed more grievances than previous years within that time frame. And I contribute a lot of that to having a good team. And, you know, I have Corey Walton in my branch. I have Jason Leith in my branch, or I should say JB Leith in my branch, and the stewards. And they put in a lot of hard work to make the branch successful. So it's not just about my achievements, it's about the achievements of a team. And I don't think one achievement or a specific achievement should be, I guess, the tell all, because you have an achievement and then you sit back and you don't do anything. It has to be about a daily push. So it's so much more than that. It's about the members, it's about listening to them, answering their questions, and that's what a true leader does.
Okay.
So I believe that we need to leave those lines of communication open. Let's see, the other part of it, what was it about a slate? What was the last part?
It was saying, can you demonstrate how you would outperform Brother Steve Lassen rather than just offer a different slate alignment? So essentially, they're asking you, what do you bring to the table other than being part of the CLC?
Right. And as far as achievements from Brother Lassen have done, honestly, I wouldn't know because my region doesn't host meetings with presidents. We're not updated on what's going on. I've been a president since 2022, and I've never been on a regional meeting with my MBA office to discuss issues or what achievements have been made or haven't been made. And being on a different slate, I think it's all about team. I think that's just important, to be on a slate with people who will push forward and make things happen for the membership. And I know that the passion and the fight that the candidates of the CLC slate have, that James have put together, they can make the changes that this union desperately needs.
All right. Well, what was the length of your service as a shop steward, and how did that role prepare you to advocate for NALC members at a higher level?
I've been with the Postal Service for about 29 and a half years, close to my 30 years. I've been a shop steward between alternate shop steward, informal way, formal ways. I've done that pretty much on and off throughout the 29 and a half years. Um, I guess a shop steward is where you get your base, you get your knowledge from the workroom floor, your knowledge of the contract, and that's your base, and that's the part that you build on. And as the years pass, to take that base and grow, and you're going to make mistakes along the way. I mean, nobody's perfect. We all do. But it's what you do with those mistakes. You need to take them. You need to learn from them. And knowing that everybody is dealing with different things in their life, as an advocate for our members, we need to have that compassion, because sometimes you'll have a member that'll call you that just wants to vent. You have others that call that have grievances. So I think starting and building from that beginning point is what makes you a good advocate, and brings you into that higher level to know what the membership needs and to be there for them.
All right. What are we going to do about the issue of undelivered mail?
I think that we first need to grieve it, because most of the times management isn't reporting that it's delayed mail. A lot of times they won't report it because they don't want to get yelled at by their bosses, so they hide it, and then it falls on us the next day. It's easier for them to hide it because of the numbers. They're not making their numbers. They getting beat down by their management, and most of the time they turn around and push it back on us. But I know this is happening across the country, and branches were told to report these to their MBA's office, and I know ours had asked for us to report it, and as a branch president, I reported every time we had delayed mail that was brought to us from our offices, and it was supposed to be addressed from the MBA's office up to national, and at this point, I was never told of any report or issue or resolution. Nothing has been addressed with it. So I'm not really sure what was the reason for us to fill out a whole report about undeliverable mail if nothing was done about it. I mean, it needs to be addressed with district managers, headquarters. There's no way that we can just sit and not give the service to our customers and just let this mail be hidden and management's not held accountable for it.
You know what I was told?
What's that?
With that report that you turn in, I was told that by my business agent's office, I was told that if we were to report it, eventually they'd convert us into a PTF only office. And I was telling them, well, what problem does that fix? It doesn't change the fact that the mail's still not being delivered. We're trying to fix the problem with something that's not even related.
So making an all-career workforce, that was another issue I had. I want to say about 2 years ago, Dan Toth came to one of the retiree luncheons for my branch, and I spoke to him about trying to get one of the offices within my branch as an all-career workforce, because they could not keep people. It was horrible. There was grievances and grievances filed. So I sent everything up to Dan Toth, and I get a reply back through an email that said we didn't qualify. But no one can tell me what gets you the qualified to be an all-career workforce. There we go back to, where's the communication? When I first started the post office years ago, and this was, I'd say, most of my career, we knew what was going on before management did. I could tell manager, oh, this is about to happen. They thought, how do you know that? Because we were kept in a loop. We knew. And now I have management tell me, oh, this is about to happen. I'm like, oh, yeah, really? I knew that. And I have no clue what they're talking about. And that's the sad part. We need to get back to being on top and being the ones that are prepared and be proactive in things and not just wait for them to happen and then say, oh, what do we do now?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, moving on to the next question. Out of all the potential leaders in Region 8, why do you think the CLC chose you to represent their slate for National Business Agent? And what does that say about your leadership?
I know when James first talked to me about running, he was looking for people who had integrity, passion, and willing to fight for letter carriers. And I would hope that he saw that within me through the success of my branch. Um, being the first female president had its struggles. Most of my career, it's always been who's the next person up, the good old boy network, and I was never the next person up. It was always me having to adapt and overcome and speak out and let people know that here I am and, you're not just going to pass me up just because I'm not a good old boy. But to be a leader, you have to be willing to put people in places where they excel. So, for instance, my branch, I have, of course, Corey Walton's my secretary. He's in my branch. He's an amazing advocate. My MBA doesn't quit using him. I have JB Lee. I mean, fantastic job at Formal Ways. Great facilitator. My MBA had stopped using him. It's things like that that's so frustrating to me because if you have an issue with a person, you deal with that issue on your personal level, but you should never put the membership in the middle of that mess. And to not use them is a disservice to our members. I mean, I would hope that he chose me because he knew that's what I would do. I would put the membership first. And that's utilizing stewards, advocates in the fields that they excel in.
All right. Yeah, I agree with that. Let's see. Is it accurate that candidates on the CLC slate are required to contribute $10,000 to be included on the slate?
Well, I don't know. I wouldn't say it was a requirement. James didn't come to me and ask me to run on his slate and say, well, if you don't, I'm going to kick you off if you don't give me $10,000. So I wouldn't say it's a requirement, but we all know it costs a lot to put a mailing out. And if you take the price of that mailing and you divide it amongst the candidates, it sets a goal without putting so much pressure on one person to raise, $10,000, $20,000, $100,000. So as a team, that's what we do. We work together to get things done because we know we need this mailing to go out. You have business agents that have been raising money since they were elected at the last convention. My business agent, he has a fundraiser for his campaign every year at our regional training. So he's been putting into his little stash to do his little mailings or whatever. But to say it's a requirement, no, it's not a requirement.
All right. If Mike Cariff were elected NALC president and you were elected as Region 8 National Business Agent, would you be willing to work collaboratively with his administration for the benefit of the membership?
Well, I think I can take and say that I would work with anybody who puts letter carriers first and willing to fight for their rights. I have an issue with people who put themselves first or think about it as and not more of a team. But lately I don't know, I look at our union as being so like a mess. Like we're lanes, you look at cars and every car is facing a different way on a highway and we're bumping into each other and there's no signs of, okay, we need to move this way and we need to move together and keep the flow going because the right hand doesn't know what the left is doing because we have no communication. There's a huge lack of communication. But I know that James will win, and with his plans and communication, I believe that the slate he put together, that we can stop this and start moving forward and putting plans in place and educating our members and, coming out with templates so we all on the same page so one side of the country isn't doing something different than the other side, and that way we can all move forward in the same direction.
All right. Well, what is your favorite food?
Well, that's a good question. I would say my favorite food. I love crawfish. I'm from Louisiana. I love crawfish. I love Drago's troubled oysters. Any type of seafood, I guess, would be my favorite food.
Hey, you're from Louisiana. I love Cajun food, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
How did your region let something like Brian Renfro happen?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, I think Lou Drass was the one who brought Brian along with him.
All right. Region 8, like many others, faces significant grievance backlogs. What is your specific strategy to streamline the Step E process and ensure carriers aren't waiting for years for justice?
I think you have to work hand in hand with your vice president, who will be Kamitra Lewis, to get the backlog handled. You know, our region, Region 8, is the worst. We have New Orleans. I think everybody heard about that. You know, New Orleans has so many cases that were backlogged, and they pretty much just sold those cases off for, I guess, a discounted price. But I mean, you have to activate your backup teams, and if they're not willing to activate these backup teams and move forward with this to get these grievances done, then a national grievance should be filed. But it reminds me of management doing whatever they need to do to make their numbers, and I guess it saddens me that NALC, to me, is doing an injustice to their members by trying to make the cases go away in terms of pretty much making their numbers. And to me, it's not a resolution to the problem. You know, if you go to I don't know, I go to a store and there's 5 outfits that I want to buy, and it'll cost $500, $100 a piece, and says, okay, well, I'm going to wait. And if I wait and wait and wait, and then they go on sale and I can get all for $500, why wouldn't I wait? I mean, to me, it's common sense. Why would management settle at informal, formal Step B if they can just wait those grievances out and get them for, I guess, a sale price?
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, that's what's hurting it's hurting the grievance. It's hurting our members. You know, we need to stand our ground and address each grievance individually according to what's in the file. You can't say, oh, I have 1,000 or 10,000 Article 8s, and each grievance will have different circumstances, but I'm just going to settle them all for this amount. I mean, it's so unfair, and it shouldn't lose importance as it goes up the ladder.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Next question is, when deciding which cases to push to regional arbitration, what will be your criteria?
Well, I know, you know, me as a branch president and speaking to other branch presidents, we hear a lot of times the case is missing this, the case is missing that, or this isn't a good one to move forward with. And to me, if that's the case, why aren't we doing more education in our region? You know, we need to be educating on how to put these case files together. And if branches are missing something, communicate that with them. Let's say, okay, this case file is missing this. And, you know, you'll hear, oh, well, we have regional training. That's what we have, regional training. That's it. So here we go back to the lack of communication within our region. I mean, if you know that my cases need to be a certain way, then let's figure it out and let's fix it so we can move forward. But I mean, I'm glad that James wants to bring on the position of director of education, back with Paul Bolanger, because Paul has already started educating, and he has a plan that he's going to create these templates that's going to go out throughout the country. So a lot of times, if something's happening in one part of the country, on my side, we may not know about it. But if this template is put out, then I'm aware of it. I know when it comes to my region, I'm ready to address it. That's being proactive and not just sitting back and waiting for it to hit. And then it's putting on branch presidents to, okay, now I have to do a template. Now I have to do this. That's what this national template would help with, to take that pressure off these presidents and have us all going in different directions, like the cars I was talking about, bumping into each other. And with the plans that Paul has in place, we can do that and be on the same page and move forward. But to the question, national templates, educating on case files, and then we should have more cases that would be ready to move forward if they had to go to arbitration.
All right, that's a good idea. Paul does pretty good with that Lions Den.
Absolutely.
Yeah, shout out to Paul for a second. But all right, next question.
Good job, Paul.
With a 55% turnover rate for new hires nationally and the high cost of living cities like Nashville or New Orleans, how will you use your position to pressure management to bettering the working conditions specifically for CCAs and PTFs in our region?
Well, I'm in favor of an all-career workforce. I think a non-career workforce is not doing anything for us. I guess hiring at a higher rate, you're going to get the CCAs to feel like they're a part of something and not, pushed to the side. I know issues that are happening in my area. They hire the CCAs, they go to training, they go to orientation, academy. I'll go talk to them when they're in academy, and the first thing they tell me is, I didn't get paid. I didn't get a paycheck. I didn't, how are you going to have CCAs come on board with us? We train them, and then you don't want to pay them. These CCAs probably haven't been paid for, if they didn't work before they came to the post office. Now here they are without a check. They work, and now they still don't have a check, expecting it. But then you want to be mad when they quit? I mean, nobody wants to work for free. Then we're forced to file grievances. Then we're forced to reach out and try to get them paid. So we need to get back to making them a priority, just like everybody else, and not, oh, it's a CCA and they'll get their check when they get it. It's really sad that as fast as CCAs are hired, management chases them away by putting pressure on them, trying to cut corners, and that's their way because they're conditioning these CCAs.
Yep.
So, and I believe that, with the work that Paul Boland is doing with educating members and podcasts and other avenues like this, that it's going to help for them to learn their job because, of course we can't be in every office, and you have a steward that'll help them or seasoned carriers that'll help them, but to have that education that they can go to whenever they need it is really important. And then when you have people like Corey, when he's in place with safety and health and addressing the toxic environment on the workroom floor, that's going to relieve a lot of that pressure that's put on these CCAs and PTFs and regulars for that matter. But recognizing the offices that need that attention and sending in teams to address how management's treating our members, especially CCAs and PTFs, is only going to be a positive. I don't know any manager, postmaster who wants a team in their office monitoring what they're doing. Most of the time that's going to cut into their Netflix time, or they're in my, I guess in Nashville, I'll say, in their group call time, because they all get on a group call and just talk all day. So putting the pressure on them would hopefully make them be aware and not act out as much. And I guess, like Corey said, he talks about the dogs of war and calling them into these offices. It may make them think twice. And if not, then we'll be a thorn in their side and keep sending teams in there until they start responding and holding them accountable for what they're doing to our members.
Yeah, it makes sense. All right. How long have you been a branch president? Please share us your ups and downs during the experience.
So I've been a branch president in Nashville since 2022. It's a 3-year term. This is my second year of the second term. I was a branch president previously in Louisiana. Guess what? I can't even think what year it was, but that was in Louisiana in Westwego. So as far as ups and downs, I guess it would have to be navigating through the good old boys and being a female and pretty much let's see, how can I say this? An area of where it's mainly men and have always been looked over for positions, or if you get passionate or you scream or you get into something, you're known as being emotional, and guys can sit there and they can defend carriers and get passionate about things, but they're strong. So I think that was my hardest part, navigating through that, the good old boys, the knowing when to stand up for myself and not just let them pass me over or silence me. So I guess that's the most frustrating part, is the downs. But I would say to all the women out there, keep pushing through, let your voices be heard. We're here, we're passionate just like the men are. And going to conventions, it's funny because you look around and now there's so many more women in that area. I guess the ups would be that part, seeing that they're still getting involved and still pushing through and helping members, and hearing the stories of, them appreciating when nobody else would help them, when management turns them away and they come to you and you actually, that relief for them or their guidance. So I guess that would be my ups and downs.
All right. Moving on. Carriers in Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana face extreme heat conditions. Beyond just filing grievances after the fact, what proactive steps will your office take to enforce HIP and protect carriers from office-focused supervisors?
I agree with being proactive. I think a lot of times that's our problem. We're reactive to management's tactics. They need to be held accountable and put letter carriers and stop putting letter carriers' lives in danger, especially like with heat and things like that. But it would take working with safety and to put plans in place, like earlier start times during summer months. I think Corey previously mentioned this, and it's a great idea. I do a lot of route inspections. That's my thing. I love route inspections. And summer months don't count towards your evaluation of your routes. So what would be the pushback that we couldn't have earlier start times so carriers aren't in the heat for the hottest part of the day, spending most of their time? I'm sure we have enough data that would show the impact of the causes between the deaths, the illnesses, the heat exhaustions, that would help us to get this pushed through, and hopefully an agreement on it that they wouldn't move our start times to later and move them up in the summer months. But I believe that we should have jumped on falsifying the HIP training.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. Um, Small branches in rural Mississippi often feel overlooked compared to the big powerhouse branches. How will you ensure that every branch, regardless of size, has direct access to your office and the RAAs?
My first branch that I was a part of was a smaller branch. It wasn't as small as some of them, but we had about 20 members. So I know how it is to come from a small branch. And now, being in Nashville, branch 4 is the largest branch in our region. So from the bottom, smaller, to the top, larger, I get there is a disconnect. And we should be appointing our RGAs, our regional grievance assistants. That's what their positions were created for. They should be helping these branches and appointing outside stewards to go in and help them. But a lot of times it's getting out, visiting these workroom floors, and not just in big branches, in the smaller offices to see what they're going through. Because I never understood, a branch will reach out because they need help, but then they're pretty much left to figure it out for themselves because they don't have officers or things like that. So they should have direct lines to these RGAs or these outside stewards or the MBA's office. So any issues they have, they know exactly who they need to call. So someone can be sent into those offices to help them. And I know this. I have branches that reach out to me all the time for help. So it's discouraging to them, I'm sure. So we need to make sure that all our members have the same representation, whether you're a small office, a large office, or an in-between office.
All right. What new training initiatives will you bring to the region, and are we going to see more specialized training in OWCP or newer technologies management is using to track us?
Well, this is a great question because this is one that I struggle with a lot. When OWCP, not all branches have OWCP specialists in them. Mine doesn't. So to guide our members and get them to where they're going, one OWCP training every so many years is not helping me to help my members. We should be having this, especially OWCP, because it's so complicated. We should have that multiple times a year throughout the region. You also, retirees. I get calls from retirees all the time, or people, or potential retirees getting ready to retire. When are you having a retiree seminar? Reach out, try to get somebody to come in. I think we've had 2 since I've been president, and I've requested 2 per year. I'd like to have one in the beginning of the year, like around March, and a little bit closer to September, October, because I think it would help for them to prepare, and not only for your older carriers, but also your younger carriers. They need to know what they're looking for in their future. It's never too early to prepare, but the trainings, we have so many new things that come out, and I don't even know if I've ever been trained on any new technology, whether it was management tracking us or new programs that management's using. And that's where we're lacking. We need to get back out and have our director of education, he's going to be putting things out to help us with the tracking, the OWCP, the retirees, and pretty much any other thing that we need. It's the resources that need to be available to us to better serve our members.
All right. There's a growing movement within the NALC for more transparency and rank and file involvement. How do you intend to make the NBA's Office of Region 8 more transparent to the average letter carrier on the street?
I'd say communication is the biggest part of it. You need to communicate to the members within your region of what's going on, whether that's through monthly, weekly, quarterly, whatever. Not only presidents, rank and file, whoever needs, to know or wants to know what's going on. And if I can't share with you what we're working on, what issues we're having, how are we moving forward, to me, carriers feel left out. They feel left, that belongs, I don't know what's going on in my region, but if you have those updates, then they can say, well, my region told me this, and my MBA explained this to me. And it would take a lot of, I guess, the unknown out of it, but also being on the workroom floor to not only hear their concerns, but to see them. You have, I guess, let's see, I want to say since 2002, I've been the president. I think my MBA visited my office twice and attended one meeting, and he's a member of my branch. But that's something that needs to change. We need to be out in these offices, in meetings, communicating with our carriers, letting them know what's going on. And I think the best way to do that is allowing them to be a part of it.
Oh, your business agent's a member of your branch?
He is.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's going to be weird when they have to go back to the route. Well, when your first term is up, what is one thing you want carriers in Region 8 to say has fundamentally changed for the better because of your leadership?
The one thing that I think is a huge thing, and not just in my region, but throughout the NALC, when I first got hired on with the Postal Service, I'm a second generation letter carrier. Both my parents are retired letter carriers. My mom's a past president, was very active in the union. So she's been my mentor for a long time. But I had pride. When I got this job, I was so excited, and, I was like, I have a good job. I work for the Postal Service. We don't have that pride anymore. So if there's something that I want to be known for, is to bring back that pride back to the job that we do, and the hope that the NALC is going to have our back. Have a more educated workforce. I mean, education is the key to a lot of things. Communication. Bring that communication back. I want carriers to feel like they can enjoy being on a workroom floor again, not feeling harassed by management. Letting the members of Region 8 know what's going on, not just in the region but nationally, and that's through open communication. So I guess pride, communication, education, and be the resource for branch presidents, because so much is dumped on their back. You have all these MOUs coming down. You have, all these issues. Oh, do this report, do that report, figure it out. And then here we are. The branch president has to figure it out. Why? We should be doing things across the board to be moving in the right direction, and the same direction.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good to know. What is your relationship with your current business agent?
Okay. We speak. We're cordial every time we see each other. I never had an issue talking to him or anything like that. I think my issues came when he stopped utilizing the members of my branch, like Corey, JB, and others. We've had facilitators in our branch that aren't utilized anymore. We actually had one the other day, an MBA, not an MBA, but someone from the regional office called to ask one of my members to be a part of regional training as a facilitator, because it's a group of them that are dealing with the CCAs and those types of issues. And everybody was approved but my member. So things like that is what needs to be changed. Like I said, when you have issues with people, you address those personal issues on your time. Don't affect my branch. Don't affect my members. And you should not use it to dictate who's going to do this and who's going to do that because of your ego or issues you have with other people.
Absolutely. How do you plan on getting connected with retirees?
Well, I want to say, I believe that we should have more meetings set up for retirees. We should educate them on whether it's their health plan or legislative issues that may deal with them, or even the Postal Service. I think our retirees are usually our biggest supporters and advocates, because most of them have a lot more time than what we do to do things. But I think utilizing branch presidents, state presidents, to get out and meet these retirees, whether it's at meetings or luncheons or whatever event they have. Working with Pam Donato, who's going to be our next director of retired members. And she's so passionate about ideas and retirees and how to get them involved and how to help them, and they love her. So I think Pam is going to be a huge asset to us to do that and get us closer to the retirees and connect it with them.
All right. What is your who is your favorite current business agent?
I can't say I have one. There's a lot of them that I really don't know. Some of them, the ones that I know, I don't know them personally or have worked with them. So I don't know. That's a hard question.
Okay. Well, what's your favorite postal podcast?
Of course, yours.
Corey's good too, right?
I think all podcasts that educate are good. I really do, because for so long we haven't had that. It was always having to reach out and do your own research or go to your training once a year or whatever the case may be. So I think podcasts are an excellent way to get to our rank and file and the people who want to work listening to these podcasts. So
I appreciate it. Well, I got one more question. Would you like to add anything else?
I would like to say, do your homework, educate yourself on the different tickets, slates, or whoever's running. Go to the CLC website, look at it, read it, endorse it, support it, but make your decision based on what you know as present and what possibly can help us to move forward and what could be our future.
Well, it was a pleasure having you on Parcels of Knowledge today. Hopefully the listeners have learned something valuable.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you having me.
If these guys are getting educated, we will be in big trouble.
Management's been weighing you down like a bag of wet catalogs, but you don't gotta take it. You strap on the elbow of education, dig it?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Roseville Wrecking Ball. The Roseville Wrecking Ball.
The Roseville Wrecking Ball. He is an Article 8 scholar, and thank God. We need Article 8 scholars right now. The Grievous Genius and the Roseville Wrecking Ball doing amazing work.
Tune into the Parcels of Knowledge podcast while you're on the route. That's the mailman's playbook, brother.